My name is Mackay. My husband was killed in Redcar on an explosion in the ammonia scrubbers. This is my home. This is the house that John and myself were going to buy. 6 days before John was killed, he phoned me. We were discussing how we were going to be moving the following week to get the keys to this house. The sale fell through, but I managed to get the sale. It's now my home rather than mine and John's.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Especially because John loved Elvis.
When he played Wonder of You, it made me really emotional. I was crying because obviously John won a Elvis karaoke competition singing that song.
I remember he told me about that.
And we played it at his funeral, so whenever I hear that song it makes me really emotional.
My name is Mackay. I'm the widow of John Mackay. He was killed on the 19th of September 2019. My husband was killed whilst working as a platform operator in the Redcar site working on ammonia scrubbers when there was a huge blast and several blasts followed.
I'm Maggie Mackay, and sister-in-law. We've been working in conjunction trying to get answers to what happened to my brother.
There's been many feelings right from the very word go. I was told that John was killed instantly and it was because they were cutting through pipes. This information was wrong. Then several weeks later, 8 weeks, this arrived. It's a health and safety pack addressed to my husband, John Mackay. First of all, I received a phone call telling them, and I asked if my husband had been killed and I was told yes. I was given an incident form from the police to basically phone up Cleveland myself to find out what happened. And then the information we've had since first meeting the police and the HSC, we were told they were going to be working in conjunction with each other. Apparently it was one of the first times that the HSC have been involved straight from the start with the investigation. But these updates and information were few and far between. We had to constantly push, when are we getting an update? When we did receive the updates, we would then ask questions. We would then give them a list of questions. They would then say, we will get back to you and answer your questions. Very little questions were ever answered, and we were always told in the end, this is an ongoing investigation, we can't give you that information. And 4 years later, we still don't know why he was killed or how it happened.
I think they make these things drag on in the hope that the families go away and stop making a noise. They don't want us to know what's happening down there. The Cleveland police had the primary say over the investigation on my brother's death. They are working alongside the HSC, investigating what happened on the day John was killed. My sister-in-law Anne and myself have did a lot of our own investigations. We've spoke to people that live and work around the Teesside site. We've found out a lot of information of what happened on the day.
Because there was a story that was covered on the day when my husband was killed, that the fire services were able to gain access to the site on the South Bank coke ovens entrance. Therefore, they had to make a detour of 13 miles to the Lackerby entrance because the South Bank entrance was blocked and locked and the fire emergency service were unable to gain access.
Well, that's just one feeling that we found on the day. Just, there was no access to where these two men were working.
That then made me realise what other feelings was there going to be if simple procedures of health and safety were breached.
My brother worked for Nationwide Platform as an access platform operator. They were hired by JF Hunt, who were the demolition company who were dealing with the demolition of the ammonia scrubbers.
I've got misgivings regarding JF Hunt because they were doing demolition, but through further information and research, I believe decommissioning should have been carried out first.
My brother was working on a top-tier coma site which is the highest level of danger. To go in and use oxyacetylene to cut down ammonia scrubbers is utter madness.
If it was a two-man job, why were they using a nationwide platform operator employee? I discovered that there was a tender put in for this job, and the company JF Hunt won the tender with the cheapest tender of 99,000, and another bid at the top scale end was £385,000. But these were going to be using cold cutting process works, as opposed to JF Hunt that were going to be using oxyacetylene, which is a hot cutting process of works. What I can't understand is, why would a company put £99,000 tender in and be accepted? It seems such a very low value in the comparison to 338,000. The question I asked myself, why would another company put in such a high tender and use cold cutting process as opposed to a cheap method? That's where I feel my husband lost his life. It was actually through cost cutting and taking the cheapest tender. How expert were they? Well, I just heard announcements yesterday regarding a statement that was released to the press from the Health and Safety Executive. The press statement has been released days before the 4th anniversary of my husband's death. I feel that's very insensitive. I wasn't notified prior to this statement being released. I was given an email after the press statement had been released. I actually discovered it by mobile message from another person because they saw it on social media. I feel absolutely disgusted that the Health and Safety Executive have released a statement to the press when it's the 4th anniversary of my husband's death.
In my experience, you always read these kind of stories online and you think, oh, it's sad, it's a shame, sad for their families. It's not until you're actually living this nightmare that you understand the hurdles, that the hoops you've got to go through to try and fight and get justice and answers for your loved one's death. It's unfair, it's unjust, it's emotionally and mentally draining. It completely changes you as a person.
The system is wrong. We're waiting far too long for answers. People are not being held accountable. The length of time, 4 years, it's wrong that families wait that length of time. We're not really that much further forward with information. It's unacceptable and the law needs to change. People need to intervene.